Joining us now is Congressman Raul Grijalva, a Democrat from Arizona. Congressman, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Let me begin by getting your reaction to State Senator Russell Pearce's promise to introduce a bill that would essentially repeal the 14th Amendment in Arizona. Pearce responded today that he is disappointed when people think he's mean-spirited because of this stance on immigration. How do you respond to that?
Well, it goes beyond mean-spirited. Russell Pearce, architect of almost every major anti-civil rights, anti-immigrant legislation in the state, and now being successful at passing those, has had that agenda forever. It's an agenda of hatred. It's an agenda of making evil out of a group of people in this state. And the consequence of it is that he was successful at 1070, Papers, Please. He was successful at ethnic studies. And he feels that he has momentum going for him. And not enough people are standing up to what I think is not just turning back the clock, but almost a retribution. And if people don't want to believe the fact that what he's doing is racially motivated and racially based, they're missing the whole point. The whole idea behind his agenda and the whole idea behind the comments that Rand Paul made are that we have to turn back the clock because these people, American citizens be they, voters be they, have gotten too much. And the consequence of that is to undercut everything that we've ever done in this country in terms of values, standards, and due process. And it's frightening, but nevertheless, that's a political reality that many of us are having to deal with right now.
I want to, you just mentioned that he feels like he has momentum at this point, and it certainly seems that way. I'm wondering, what is the kind of political sensibility in the state of Arizona right now? It seems from an outsider, and obviously I have not been to Arizona, but the way the national media is kind of reporting it, that this kind of backlash, I mean, people were talking last election that if McCain wasn't on the ballot, Arizona would have a chance of going blue, but it really seems like it's become a kind of bastion of this sort of backlash, reactionary politics, and I wonder what you think has triggered that.
Well, I think it's been the demographic shift in the state. The fact that the state is rapidly becoming a state that is evenly matched in terms of color, a state that demographically is becoming more Latino, becoming more of color. Becoming the prominence of Native Americans in our state has increased, and people are feeding on the fear that somehow this is a threat to a lifestyle, which I think is erroneous. It's going to hurt the economy. It's hurting it now. To take an attitude that we must be punitive with them in order for us to survive. That us versus them is being played out in this state, and unfortunately, leadership has not stood up to it and not called it for what it is. This is a retribution issue against a certain group of people, and we need to stand up against it. And I think that plays out nationally, and it plays out here in the state of Arizona, where we've acquiesced. Okay, maybe this is a harebrained idea, but let's not say anything because we need to protect whatever interests we have. And I think that's been the huge mistake, that we'd have allowed this movement to develop without challenging it.
In terms of challenging it, you were one of the first people to call for a boycott of Arizona, your home state. And since then, more than a dozen governments and organizations have vowed not to travel or do business with the state. I'm wondering if the economic pressure has had any direct political effect. Are you seeing it operating? Is it having the intended effect in the state?
It's having an effect. You know, the Governor Brewer has signed the bill, is given $250,000 so to put a happy face and put some lipstick on the pig. The state's okay, this bill's okay. It's not going to work. You know, the reaction of people of conscience and organizations of conscience has been, I'm not going to do business with this state. That would have happened regardless of my call or anybody else's call for economic sanctions. It is just, I really think the new backlash is we don't need to tolerate this anymore. And that backlash against this kind of assault on civil liberties and turning back the clock on civil rights is something that Democrats, including the White House, should be in the lead position as opposed to waiting to see what happens.
You were called for the administration. I just want to, since I have you here, talk about the Gulf for a moment. There's another oil platform that's operating not far from the Deepwater Horizon. There's been a lawsuit that they're not operating. Yes, exactly. And there's been a lawsuit that they're not operating with the proper engineering documents. You've communicated to the administration and called for them to stop drilling on that platform. And while I have you here in the air, I want to ask if you have heard anything from the administration back on that.
Not at that point, but we're going to have an opportunity at a hearing on the 26th of May with Secretary Salazar to ask that question. We had a canary in the cage letting us know, a whistleblower, that there are big problems in Atlantis. Horizon happens, and we still have Atlantis that if anything were to happen there, what happened at Horizon would be minimal compared to the damage that would do. And so we're asking, suspend operations until you fully investigate and fully know the impact and the consequences, and do the due diligence that this administration as an oversight agency should do on offshore drilling. Drill, baby, drill was the mantra. Everybody rushed to it, and now we're seeing the consequences of that rush. And we're saying, take a deep breath and let us know what is really going on and do the due diligence that should have been done years ago but was never done. And we acquiesced and let this thing happen without any real oversight.
Congressman Raul Grijalva, a Democrat from Arizona, thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us tonight. A pleasure to have you.
Thank you.